But I want to know about your 2020. Was COVID like a whole new which I say experience for you? Were you rocked by it? Did you feel a heaviness like so many of us did? Were you locked down, or did you, have a sense of peace about it? Where were you in terms of your mindset and your emotional and spiritual well-being during the height of the pandemic?
Yes, initially, I'd have to be honest. I was shocked by it. It was something that you didn't understand. A lot of the being in the medical field, we didn't understand. Being in the work environment and almost having the concern of being exposed as well. There was just so many things happening besides work, in addition to ministry, making sure that you wanted to lead those under you properly. The goal was we wanted to make sure that we weren't leading them astray. And so it was truly a difficult transition and having to be isolated from those that you love. And I actually ended up having COVID in July.
No,
And
this
so
year or
that
last year?
July of last year.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And it's truly a traumatic experience in that you have to isolate from your family. And you
Now, were you
feel
scared?
so
Now, hold on
alone.
now. Were you scared? I mean, no one wants the COVID-19 diagnosis. You feel like you laid out, you
Yeah.
about to, you're not going to get up. And in all seriousness, we remember all those lives that they
Yes.
was real for them.
Yeah.
Were
Yes.
you scared? Were you rocked by the diagnosis? Were you the only person in your family
Yes.
had it? Like, what kind of situation was it? Like the whole household type deal, or?
So it initially started, I was diagnosed first, but we're not too sure as to where it originated.
Mhm.
But my son also ended up having it, my daughter possibly, but I didn't get her tested. In addition to my husband, he was fine. He didn't get tested. He didn't have any symptoms. So he was basically managing the household. And
Ha!
so initially I said to myself, okay, it's going to be okay. Because a lot of people say it's like a cold, it's like a flu. And then all of a sudden I had fevers for 3 days, body ache. I was coughing. And then I had a period where I had a shortness of breath. And
Wow.
at that point, I was like, Lord, am I going to have to go to the hospital? Because
Yeah.
I literally got up and walked and I felt like I could not breathe.
Mm.
But having a group of medical providers that I'm connected to, nurse practitioners, they were like, use a nebulizer. And so I just started using my daughter's albuterol. I'm not
Girl,
recommending.
no, that albuterol works though. That albuterol opens up those
Yeah.
lungs, that passageway.
Yes.
But did you make some of the Haitian teas? Did
I
the
did.
grown people, they didn't give you
I
no tea?
did. I did
Oh,
have tea. I
girl.
did have like the lemon, ginger. It has the cloves. I almost said it
Listen,
incorrectly. I
island
don't know
folk
the
got
name
that
of
rub up and that mix up. Who know about it? It looked like
it.
Patricia. You know about it, Patricia. We start boiling up something from the yard immediately.
Yes, we were
So
doing
you
all
went
that.
like, oh my gosh. So that was like a full 14-day thing, or how
Yes.
long did you have COVID for,
It
or
honestly it was
experience
14
symptoms?
days, but
Mhm.
afterwards I continued to have like minor joint pain. First symptom that
Mm.
started, and I actually looked it up. I said joint pain with COVID because I had joint pain that came out of nowhere on my finger. And then it showed up that people with COVID actually had joint pain, but then there are a lot of symptoms that people have with COVID. So I didn't think anything of it. And then I started having fever and headache, and the joint pain remained, but it resolved. So that completely resolved. But that took like maybe 3 to 6 months
Mm.
between that duration for it to completely resolve.
So I'm happy that you shared that, because I think
Yes,
also, since we know COVID ain't over, some of us thought that,
yes,
but it ain't quite there. It's good to,
yes,
hear that, you not only survived, but it wasn't just, the symptoms can come, and other parts of the disease that we don't even understand yet can affect your body.
exactly.
But there are people that do survive it and actually, get through it and get to the other side. So I'm glad for that testimony. Now,
Yeah.
emotionally and mentally, beyond that, last year, were you, stable, easy, in the flow? Did you have any added stressors? Were you in any type of depression or anxiety? How was 2020 for you in terms of keeping your, emotions in balance?
Okay. 2020 required a lot of balance in that, again, being a leader of a church alongside of my husband, of course, and being a parent, concerned about your children, and not to mention that they were homes with the electronical learning, the virtual learning, and working in the arena of being concerned about being exposed and so forth. It was challenging in that you had to consider everyone. it was not just about being concerned about myself, but considering everyone. So many times I had to literally say, okay, Lord, I'm going to have to not be anxious. And I'm going to tap on the word. I'm not going to be anxious for nothing, but by everything through prayer and supplications. This is in Philippians chapter 4. I said, I'm going to make my requests be made known unto God. So I found myself kind of going, it was almost as if it was a tug of war, like that anxiousness was trying to take over me, because truly indeed, because you desire the best, not only for my family, for my children, for those that I work with, but for those that we shepherd, but also you're concerned about family. So I did go through a period of struggling with anxiety, not necessarily depression. Although I did deal with depression many years ago, and I thank God for bringing me through that. But the ability to be able to stand strong and be firm and not be moved, because I refuse to be moved, I refuse to be shifted. It was a fight. It was a fight, because this time is like no other. Like this is a time that we have not experienced before, and even medical providers are unsure as far as what we're dealing with and how to best approach this time emotionally, physically, and managing the disease and all the medical, psychiatric diagnoses and psychological diagnoses that's arising. And I can't say that it wasn't, because I feel that I want to say this too, because I feel that at times people of color, we deal with anxiety, but we just deal with it a different way. And we're probably now able to put the finger on, and this is, I do have anxiety, because
Yeah.
I
Or be able to call a thing a thing.
yes,
Boy, we scared to say it
yes,
because we don't want to bring it on us. My
yes,
mom will have a heart attack if I say anything like, you know, "No,
yeah,
I don't want you to feel this way. Don't call that on me. Don't." I'm
yes,
like, wait a minute. I'm just describing what I see. But
yes,
if you don't want me to call it a thing, I hear
yes,
you. You want to speak life. You want to speak
yes,
life. But we
yes,
also have, real issues that we want to call
yes,
out. And I'm glad that you were very transparent with that, because a lot of people don't think, especially someone is, prayed up and
yes,
mature in her spiritual walk
yes,
as walk as you may not, experience that anxiety feeling. And
yes,
actually, we're human at the end of the
yes,
day. And no
we are.
matter what, we're not, it's something that can come to the best of us, and we got to be okay with, I'm saying that has happened to me, and I'm glad that you shared that, because no one knows, especially when you look so fabulous and you so together, and wait, she had anxiety, she felt that kind of way, and especially being a nurse as well. Were you in still working in the hospital during all of COVID?
Yes, yes, I actually
Ooh,
was. I
that
was
would
in the
bring anxiety.
hospital.
Ooh,
We've had patients with possible COVID exposure, and so it was definitely a concern.
yeah.
Going through all the measures, and it's a possibility that I may have. Likely, the COVID came from the hospital. I was working in the hospital, then a couple of
Oh,
weeks later, yeah. And despite washing
child.
my hands, wearing a shield, and
Spray.
yep,
Don't touch your face.
yes,
Don't do that.
yes,
And I
yes,
mean, I'm sure all protocols were followed. But yeah, this is life. We have to be,
yes,
ready for anything. Things unpredictably, come into our even the best laid plans. So
yes.
I'm gonna do a quick reset. Welcome, y'all. I see a bunch of y'all watching. Thank you for tuning in. This is the Suzette Speaks Show, having a midday chat with this beautiful lady here, Miss Cathy Remy. She's a prophetess, she's an author, ministry leader, nurse of 15 years, so many wonderful titles. I didn't know what to call her. I was just like, what do you want me to call you? She was like, just Cathy is fine. But a
Kathy.
humble woman of God who knows what it's like to be healed. Now, when you made or were writing the book, did it come during 2020? Did it come during 2021? What was that process like?
Actually, it came through 2020. Last year,
Mm.
I wrote Fear Overthrown to help people deal with the spirit of fear. But this year, the Lord let it on down in my spirit, as a matter of fact, in regards to helping women heal. Because with Women of Destiny, we're going to be having a conference, and the goal is to help women overcome healing, overcome hurt, overcome pain, overcome past abuse, overcome the pain of divorce, overcome the rejection. And because I feel that a lot of people have been isolated with themselves during this time, and being isolated with themselves is either that they're fearful of confronting themselves, they're fearful of truly dealing with the burdens, or they're being faced with the fact of, now I have to deal with this. Now I have to deal with what I've experienced. Now I have to really kind of look at myself through that experience in itself. It's kind of unloaded some issues,
You
having to deal
stepping
with
on
me.
toes. You stepping on toes, ma'am. I hear you.
Yes.
This COVID
Yes.
came for a reason, you guys. And again,
Yes.
with all the sadness that it brought, that's not what I'm talking about. The tragedy is real.
Yes.
But when we
Yes.
think about the stand still and know, and when we think about the woman in the mirror, some of us hadn't really taken a deeper look at the woman in the mirror in a very long time.
Not at
And
all.
what really mattered, who really mattered, what we were trying to accomplish, and where we were working and who we was with. Divorces was pretty high last year. I'm just going to tell the truth as an attorney.
Yes.
Divorces
Yes.
started piling up because people
Yes.
was like, not
Yes.
saying I advocate for it, but it was
Mhm.
very serious. People were making, new newfound what should I say, heart decisions, because they were sometimes too busy to realize what it is that they want, who do they want, how they wanted their lives to be. And finally, we had time to rest. We weren't too busy to, just be running around and
Yes.
ignoring the realities.
Yes.
Ooh, who's with me? Oh my goodness, who's with
Yes. Yes.
me? Because it's real out here. Many of us,
It
I know
is.
myself included, it COVID really, whoa, it just it made me, see from a different perspective, different lens, shone a light on parts of my life that I had to come to like grips with. Like, you
Mhm.
say you're this, but actually you're doing this. And you say
Yes.
you're that, but actually you're doing that. And it was very frightening, to say the least, in some areas of my life. And I was very almost relieved to
Mm.
start to do the work in other areas of my life. So tell me about that in your own. So you talked about fear first, so that was probably the most important thing last year.
Yes.
So then you started writing the heal.
Yes.
What were you seeing around you that led you beyond the fear, the first book from 2020, to get into the healing part?
In my time of